And that, Cecil, is why I like X-Men Days of Future Past. You seem bored, I'll let you go. Told you I'd have a cat on screen. So, the title probably already gave it away, but I, a while back on Twitter, mentioned that I came into possession of something interesting. Really interesting. Now, only recently have I actually kind of looked into buying a few Marvel omnibuses. I had always kind of steered away from them under the grounds that they're expensive and they could easily murder people. As a weapon, of course, not come to life and attack people like some sort of bizarre sequel to the Page Master. That movie's already bizarre, so I don't know how you could make it a bizarre sequel. Anyway, my point is, I kind of steered away from it for reasons. But, you know, I kind of found some cheap in places. The first two I ever got was The Untold Tales of Spider-Man and the first volume of West Coast Avengers in omnibus form, thanks to a sale my comic shop had. And I've gotten others. Some I've gotten off of eBay, or I happened across a good deal on Barnes & Noble for one. And then there's a local bookstore. It's a great place here in my town called Novel Idea. It's a wonderful bookstore. The owner's really nice. It's a small but nice atmosphere, really, really cool. And they usually get your hands on some really cool stuff, especially graphic novels. They sometimes find some really interesting things. A few things that I haven't been able to find before, or at least easily. And there was a time, like they're kind of dwindling now, but they came across a bunch of omnibuses, and I got a couple. One I got in particular was this bad boy. Yes. And don't worry, I didn't spend much. The sale price might say $50, but I spent like $18 on this after a sale and a bunch of store credit I saved up. Now you may be wondering yourself, Duke, isn't this highly regarded as one of the absolute worst big market crossover events of all time? Why, yes, it is. Just fits off camera there. It's like where my hands here. Wait. Seriously, it's. I'm gonna have it like that to hide behind if I have to. Well, I use goodness name. Anyway, so why did I get this? Even after, you know, a good deal. I mean, I could have used that store credit on anything else. I could have. This I wanted to experience because I wanted to know, is it that bad? And also the chance to, because this was a big deal back then. I'm going to flip it around and show you. This thing doesn't just collect the mini-series, because obviously this is more than 9 issues worth of material. What it does collect is almost every tie-in to the book. There's 2 issues here that aren't collected because I think one was a ROM, the Space Knight issue, and a Micronauts issue. And Marvel doesn't have the rights to that anymore, so they couldn't put them in the omnibus. But pretty much everything here, like all the tie-ins, and there's even a Fantastic Four story that took place a few years after, that ties into all of this. Now, I wanted to get this because I wanted the experience of looking at all of, at least most of this, because I admittedly, I didn't read the last chunk here because it seemed like they weren't important enough, because it wasn't the Secret Wars 2 main story. But I wanted to kind of read the event and all the crossovers to see maybe it comes out all right if I read the tie-ins. And I also wanted to see, because the big thing about tie-ins are their connection to the main event is either so heavy that you can't understand what's going on unless you are reading the main book, or so vaguely connected, like literally the only connection to any event is they point over to where the real action's happening and can go back to their own thing. And then there's others that complement from the events, like the events of this impact and influence the events in the other tie-ins. You could do them in a lot of ways, some good, some bad. This is all over the map in terms of tie-ins. There are some tie-ins that I swear to you only are considered tie-ins because the Beyonder stands there for 2 seconds and says something. And then there are others that deal... For example, there is an issue in here where the Beyonder turns an entire apartment complex into gold. Go with it. And there's an interesting pair of Spider-Man issues that deal with the aftermath of that. Because here's the thing about gold. It's not something you want to make a building out of. It's not a hard enough metal to support its own weight when you have so much of it. So obviously it collapses. It's a nice little 2-part story where Spider-Man has to rescue people, but he's also tempted on mining some of this gold and getting rich off of that. But at the end of the day, true Spider-Man nature comes out and he saves the people. And then that leads to another issue of someone who was trying the same tactic of stealing the gold, but Spider-Man stopped him, blah, blah, blah. There's some, honest-to-God, interesting issues. There's some good single issues in here. None of them are the main mini. The main mini-series is... It is a... How do I define it? It is 9 issues, and it does not deserve that length. It's very... I swear... There's a whole issue of the Beyonder wanting to date Dazzler. And going on a date with Dazzler. Guess where that leads? Dazzler running away from him and him being sad. Again, really, really dumb. Now, again, the main thing I wanted to get out of this was, is it really that bad? Like, is the mini itself really that bad? And how, because this is sort of the, I don't think this is the greatest example of how tie-ins kind of it going crazy. I think the greatest example of tie-ins, not working out, was with Civil War, where that book got delayed, so either tie-ins had to be delayed or went on anyway, and you're really confused because Civil War didn't come out, so certain points make little to no sense or maybe spoil Civil War. And that's the primary example. Hey, that thing just went all out. Civil War, I think, tied into almost everything. This... It's honestly like the way I broke this up originally, kind of, I didn't want to overload myself. I mean, quality storytelling. Oops. Hold on. Professional. Quality storytelling can't be, but how I did this was I got a bunch of bookmarks because reading all of this is hard, of course, it's a lot of stuff. So what I did was I just seeked out every Secret Wars 2 issue and put a bookmark in that first page, and that way I can kind of section it out, because the way this is done, obviously Secret Wars 2 number 1, and then a couple tie-ins, and then number 2, and then a couple tie-ins, and then number 3. So that's how I did it, and literally, like, again, some of the events, some of these are obviously taking place in bigger stories, where the Beyonder feels like an afterthought. They were just like, we got this event going, put them in your book. But we already have something else going. I don't care, just have him walking around eating a candy bar or whatever. He doesn't actually do that to my memory, but still. Like, there's some where he's very much involved, and it feels like... I swear to you, there's somewhere where he's in it so much, you're wondering, you kind of ask yourself, couldn't this just be one of the issues? Instead of the mini, that's the thing. This mini just meanders, and it's a lot of it is him kind of, because the whole thing about it is it's Beyonder coming to Earth, and he's basically trying to explore and understand us. Kind of think of him like Q from TNG, only he dresses a far lot worse, and he looks like an evil David Hasselhoff, really. Well, he looks like David Hasselhoff with black hair. And a lot of it's just him understanding humans. Hell, on that front, it's not even really Q. It's more of Data, I guess, if you want to do a TNG parallel. If you have to. And that's the thing. Like, I was so lost on some kid. And again, I hate to draw back to this, but sometimes when it got to the tie-in issues, because there are some honest to God fun issues here. In particular, I really liked. I can't say that there's an issue that two-part I mentioned earlier with. This is just a sound thing I need. It's between Web of Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man. It's like a nice little combo cover, and a good story comes out of that. That's actually probably the best use of a good story and B, a good tie-in, because the events of Secret Wars 2 are affecting the Marvel Universe. And there's even, for example, there's an issue of the Hulk where it's honestly just a lot of, it's kind of looking at Bruce Banner's life and kind of showing how the Hulk in his head kind of was growing more and more, and it's a really interesting issue. It tells you about his life leading into the incident that makes him Bruce Banner. There's a really fun kind of a crossover with Power Pack and Thor, and this issue, that issue of Thor's done by Walt Simonson. I had read this one because I have the Simonson stuff and trades now, and the Power Pack issue was there. So once I got to read both of them back to back, I was like, this is a really fun crossover. More fun than fucking Secret Wars 2. Like another one I liked, and which is strange because I kind of saw this being really, really pointless and stupid, but there's an issue of The Thing, Ben Grimm trying to fight the Beyonder, and it's actually really fun. There's some Claremont X-Men issues that are really cool. But then there's just some there's some issues that I'm just like, okay, not only does it not tie into Secret Wars, which again I'm kind of happy with to a point, but it's just some just sort of lost me like. And I don't know that I'm sure if maybe I was reading the series and context would make sense, but I felt really kind of lost with any, because there are a couple of New Mutant issues in here that I was really lost with, because it felt like they were on their own little thing, especially and also John Byrne's Fantastic Four crosses over here, a few issues by him, but there's clearly another story going on. That's the thing, is it just feels like a bunch of issues just sort of pop up. Like, it just doesn't work in some cases. Now, again, I wanted to get this because I wanted to see a big, grand... this was my grand old experiment to... While this was a small case, an easy one to deal with, I wanted to read an event and then see all the tie-ins and see how it all gels. And my thought? It's not great. I will say this. If you paid $100... if you were expecting greatness for that $100, you're sadly disappointed. But I'm not angry that I read this because I kind of knew what I was getting into, and also I was more interested in the experience of reading all of this and seeing what came out of it. I'm going to put it down because it's about to tip over. But it was an interesting. It was interesting. I'm glad I read this kind of give you a bit of understanding of what this is. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not a good chapter, but it's still a chapter in Marvel's history. It's very notable. It's, like I said, it's a constant example of crossover events gone amok, really, which, I don't know, the last few years I barely pay attention to any of them anymore, but yeah, let me put this in perspective for you. I had more interest in reading the failure of an event from decades ago than like the last 3 events that Marvel's done at all, because A, they all keep happening at once, and B, they just don't interest me. I mean, Age of Ultron looked boring from the get-go to me. Not because it's Ultron, but because it's 10 issues by Bendis. No. I don't really care for Bendis, and the one thing I definitely don't care about him is he spends way too long. And that's one of the things I've heard about that series, is it's way too long. I didn't care about Infinity. I couldn't even pay attention to Infinity. Like literally, I completely skipped out, and by the time issue 2, by the time I was thinking, oh, look, the issue's out, that's issue 3. It is? I wasn't paying any attention. Same with Inhumanity, and while some people have told me otherwise, I feel the same about Original Sin right now. Like, I just don't know. I might give Axis a shot because it's Remender and it's tying in Uncanny Avengers, probably, because I've been loving that. I want to see where that goes. I'm really curious about where that whole Onslaught Red Skull thing's been going. But Events have just lost me. Like I Forever Evil, what I read of it, like, I liked, but it's been delayed. It was delayed so much, like, just enough to where my interest in it was kind of Like, I'm okay. I'm happy I'm reading it, but at the same time, I'm not excited to keep looking for it. Blackest Night, I was excited to read. Really excited to read in issues. And I got the hardcover of it when it came out. Like, I really liked it. And this, I just sort of completely fell off. And it wasn't just because of the delay, but, like, I fell off before that. But that delay definitely kind of cemented that I'll just wait to see how this pans out and see what happens. This kind of, like, in a weird way, while looking at this, it made me think of, like, what do I think of events? And event comics, I've never really taken a big shine to a lot of them. They just sort of, well, for example, how often do the events of this get echoed? Not much, because, A, it's decades old, but, I mean, let's look at other things. Let's look at the legacy of some, like, Infinity Gauntlet's a big kind of cosmic event, and it's constantly referenced, it's constantly recommended, and hell, it's even going to be the basis of a future Marvel movie from the looks of it. So it has impact on people. Days of Future Past, not an event, but a very major story. Like, my thing is, event comics very rarely, if ever anymore, and this is going back far, far back, just don't have an impact anymore. Like, I just don't, like, the only time I ever remember an event is either the few times it's wowed me, or times where I remember it being absolutely dreadfully too long, like Civil War was. I don't like Secret Invasion. I've said that many a time. Everything Marvel's done event-wise, I have not paid or cared any about. Like, the closest one I kind of was interested in was maybe Sphere itself, but I don't remember anything about that story beyond hammers flew from the sky and bad things happened. So that's my thing, is event comics just don't seem to leave an impact with me, and I'm feeling like it's just not leaving an impact on anybody anymore. And they're going to keep showing them out. Like, I know that because it's a big thing, and you're going to keep up with a big thing if you like comics. But, oh well. This became more of a... This video started out as just me kind of talking about my experience reading this, but it devolved into me just sort of having a little interesting kind of thinking, kind of an interesting conversation with myself about the events. I hope you people liked it.